furry ever? How many is this? Is your first experience with furry? Okay. So one of the scary, isn't it? One of the things that I like to mention, this was something that was said by a very good friend of mine many years ago, and when the question was asked, what is all this? Who are you people? And he came up with a pretty brilliant answer, and I've kind of adopted it as like something I tell everybody. To understand who a furry is, you need to know who a furry was. Furries were the people that never seemed to fit in. We were the fat kid that never got picked for recess. We were the brainy kid that people wanted to cheat off of but never got invited to parties. We were that kid at the dance who stood at the wall waiting for someone to ask us to join in but never seemed to happen. We were all the people who craved some kind of social interaction, but where we found it was in the happy, smiling, and accepting faces of the cartoon characters that we saw on television, either after school or on Saturdays. That's who we were. Who are furries now? We're simply people who never forgot our childhood friends. And if you can wrap your hands around that idea that we never lost that sense of wonder and that sense of imagination that our childhood friends gave us, you got a pretty good handle on who we are now. So if you kind of keep that in mind through a lot of what we're going to talk about, things will make a little bit more sense. And hopefully that didn't seem too corny or too crazy.
I didn't think that was corny at all. I thought that was sweet. That was cool. I think that I've always thought of it as if you ask 10 furries what furry is about, you will get at least 12 answers.
Yep.
So
no, closer to 20.
Yeah, it's a very personal question, and ultimately all the answers are correct. Whatever reason you have found yourself as part of this fandom, doesn't matter. Welcome. It's a cool place to be, I think.
I agree. So there are a couple things that are unique about furry fandom and furry conventions. We don't operate exactly the same way as a lot of other conventions. And that's kind of why, in a little while, we're going to actually have some of these critters down here come on stage and we'll demonstrate a few things for you. Does everybody know there's a big rule that we like to ask everybody to follow? It's called 621. Raise your hands, how many people have ever heard of 621? How many people have never heard of 621? Okay. 621,
Six glasses of water.
No. It's a set of requirements that we suggest everybody follow. It's 6 hours of sleep per night, minimum. 2 good full meals per day, minimum. And 1 good, clean shower per day, minimum. And if you're one of these nice critters down here, 2, 3, or 4 is not unheard of.
It seems like this should be basic information, but I think people get very, no, and this isn't a bad thing.
We laugh about this because we sit here, we're asking people to shower. That doesn't feel like something we should be doing.
We're asking people to eat breakfast or eat lunch every day and to get sleep, which you would
No, but I think the reality is, though, people get caught up in the moment. Yep. You enjoy yourself, you forget, people don't often get the sleep that you require, and we're just doing the nice reminder, hey, your body will like you a whole lot more tomorrow if you do a few simple things.
Yeah, because if you don't get 6 hours of sleep a night, your immune system will actually suffer and you'll be much more susceptible to con crud. And if you have a really fantastic weekend, which everyone here hopes Midwest Furfest is going to be an amazing, fantastic experience for you, the worst thing to do is go home and start feeling sick for 3 or 4 days. You don't have that warm, fuzzy feeling carrying over into the holidays. So please, even though it sounds weird and it sounds like, no, I think I can handle it, please, 6 hours of sleep a night, 2 good meals a day, Pixie Sticks do not count, Mountain Dew does not count. You have to actually eat substantive food. There's lots of good restaurants. Red Bar has great food. The buffets are really good.
Oh, yeah.
And this is Chicago. There's a lot of great restaurants nearby. Experience the local cuisine. It's fantastic.
And tons that deliver through Grubhub. So I highly encourage all the hotel restaurants because they really are good, and it's kind of an amazing way to not get away from the action, but kind of sit down and still be part of it all. But if you can't, there are tons of other options for food around here, including the park. What is that called? MB Park?
No, MB Park, yes. Across it is a bit of a walk, but fortunately the weather's very nice. If you walk a little bit, 3 or 4 blocks towards the interstate, which I guess you can't see from here. That way. There's an entire park with about maybe 6 or 7 fairly decent restaurants. There's actually a food court at a mall over there as well. So there's lots of food options. Again, it sounds self-serving because of our relationship with the Hyatt. A lot of the food here is pretty good at the hotel as well, though. So,
And that one shower a day makes a world of difference.
yes.
Most of you will not realize by Sunday, there are some people who will have forgotten, I'm going to use that term lightly, to shower. They are also probably there will be at least one person who will be wearing the same t-shirt for 3 days.
Their favorite t-shirt.
Yeah.
We're not trying to scare you with this, by the way. We're sort of warning you, maybe?
Just a little bit. But the thing is, when that happens to you, if you tend to forget to do something, or you've been fursuiting and you're like, oh, I'll just put on a shirt, you can't smell yourself. We can. Everybody around you can. We have a problem with the human olfactory system, or the way we smell is we become very oblivious to smell after a while. But a new person who's not encountered you before, it's going to hit them like a brick wall. And Axe is not a shower. It's covering up a mistake.
Why am I getting the impression, KP, that this is just a really complicated way you're trying to tell me I need to get better hygiene or something?
I mean,
I love you, Cody.
Oh my gosh, all right.
But yeah, just 6-2-1. Just make sure you eat, you rest, feed yourself, and keep yourself clean. And you will make your experience and everybody else's experiences a lot better.
Yes. So I actually had an agenda as well. Did you guys?
No.
Okay. So yeah, I just step over there, so I put these guys both
I
in
don't
the
think I
spot.
got CC'd on this agenda.
Yeah, no, this is yes. Anywho, so so what we want to go over, a lot of things here. There's a lot of new people at this convention, and we just wanted to talk about some of the space, some of the things that people do. Talking about the 621 thing, I think is incredibly important. Being able to make sure you're eating on a regular basis, awesome. At this convention in particular, and actually a lot of other larger conventions, you're going to find various lounges. What we think we try to do very well, and hopefully you guys will agree after you experience it, is really create a good environment for people to be social, to hang out, to show off their costumes, to see cool things. There's a lot of lounges and things like that to assist in that. So if you're a fursuiter, there is a fursuit lounge, or a headless lounge, some other conventions call it. For us, it's just down the hall here on your left-hand side, your right-hand side if you're facing me. There's water in there, there's fans in there and things like that. There is a con suite, which, as we said during the opening ceremonies, if you were here for that, is a great place if you want to just hang out with other friends, draw in an open area. There's sometimes soda, chips, things like that inside there, snacks for people to do stuff. Of course, there's the lobby. And if anybody's been here already for a day, if you were up in the lobby last night, yeah, there are a few people here. And it's awesome, actually. We're very, very lucky. The types of people who have attended our convention and who are attending our convention this year are perfect for this hotel and perfect for the setup, and we really, really appreciate that. Everybody is able to mingle in extremely large quantities upstairs, and there's very few problems, and so that is awesome. That is the type of stuff we want to keep encouraging, and that is a big part of what a lot of people tend to do at conventions. Now, my personal thing, I don't like to sit here and tell you this is what a convention is, this is how conventions go, because everyone's going to figure that out for yourselves. But what we do want to do is at least highlight some of the things that we hear back from our attendees, and things that we spend an awful lot of time on. So that's why we're talking about lounges. That's why you all have gone through registration. That's obviously the big part. You will need a badge on your person to go in any convention spaces, including things like dances. So if you're in fursuit or wearing a costume or something like that, just make sure you have your badge available as well. A lot of that is just for protection and for security, but it's also just to make sure that we've got people who are with our group inside the space here. Now, it's not so bad for us anymore because we're large enough that we consume literally this hotel and many hotels nearby. But at other conventions, a lot of people rely heavily on the badges as a way of segregating different groups. So if there's another event going on in the hotel, you're not going to their event, they're not coming to our event, and so forth. So badges are pretty important.
And also, you can commission art badges down in the dealer's room.
Yes.
So pimping the dealer's room just a little bit, you can go down there and you can get your badge, your character drawn as an art badge. The thing is though, that art badge is not the same as these badges. The badges that you've been issued by registration give you permission to be in con space. The other badges are just really nifty, cool pieces of artwork, and a lot of people like them, especially fursuiters. If you have multiple characters, they like to show them off so that everything's continuous. but you have to show your actual con badge to be in con spaces.
Yeah, and that does include places like the Dealer's Den and Artist Alley and so forth. And actually, that's a perfect segue. There are different spaces in addition to some of the programming. This would count what we're doing right now as a programming event. We do have dances in the evenings.
They're great too.
They are spectacular. They're loud, so if you haven't been to a dance here, it's quite an experience. Pretty cool, pretty fun, great music, a lot of craziness. But we've also got things like the Dealer's Den, an opportunity to buy from in a lot of cases, vendors and people you may very well know or meet within the fandom. These aren't large corporations coming in here to go sell stuff. These are our friends, these are attendees selling things that they may have made or their businesses. And it's really astounding. I mean, I've been doing the furry thing, going to conventions and whatnot for probably way too long. There are some very, very large small businesses within this community, and we support ourselves with that. And I think that's really kind of cool. That's very unique to me to see that. We don't have, a Microsoft or a Ford or a GM or something coming in here. We have large entities of ourselves, companies of ourselves. Our guests of honor, for example, here, we're celebrating our own community directly. We're not bringing in Hollywood superstars here. We're recognizing the work that we are all doing inside here. So things like the Dealer's Den, a great space to see that kind of stuff. There's an art show as well. If you'd like to see a custom created piece of artwork, you can certainly purchase that stuff inside there. And then Artist Alley is again a great place where you can meet some of those local artists, or artists I guess who would have come in from anywhere, and commission things like those badges that KP was talking about.
Yeah, the other thing, and Cody touched on this, but the difference between furry conventions and a lot of other conventions, especially corporate sponsored ones, there are two terms that are actually used to describe that. Things like Comic-Con, Dragon Con, a lot of places where they're selling, just there to sell product and to promote things are called consumer conventions.
Right.
They're things where there are corporate sponsorships and there's a lot of money backing them. Furry conventions tend to be what are called producer conventions, and that's because the people here are creating unique characters all unto themselves. They're creating unique pieces of artwork, they're creating sculptures, they're writing stories, selling books. We actually generate our over 85% of our own material, whereas other conventions, they're relying on other people bringing things in. It's a unique faction or a factor of the furry fandom, and it's what really makes us, I think, very special.
Well, a perfect example of this, I mean, you'll see the DJs that you see at our dances and stuff sort of become cult legends within the fandom. Except, not Rekka though. Rekka is a DJ at the back, and not Rekka.
Everyone but Rekka.
But similarly as well, you're going to find a lot of performers if you come by the dance competition on Sunday. Again, we began to build a lot of, I don't want to call it stardom because that sounds way too formal. Celebration, I guess. Well, there's a lot of really amazing talent within this group, and we do an awful lot of cool things to actually recognize that. I think it is very unique.
It is. And that also touches on one other thing, which we're going to possibly segue to. I hope it's Lost and Found and sketchbooks are on your...
I have sketchbooks. I don't have Lost and Found, but sketchbooks.
Because we're going to tie them together.
Yep.
So how many people here have a sketchbook? Okay, I do too.
I can't...
Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. How many of your sketchbooks are black? Okay, the numbers are going down. There are a few. One of the most common things that gets turned into Lost and Found are sketchbooks.
That is true.
And one of the most frustrating things for Lost and Found is when you go, hey, I lost my sketchbook. Can you describe it? Yeah, it's black. And it's got my character drawn in it.
So for those who don't know, because I mean, I've never had one. A sketchbook is basically just a book that you can have custom artwork drawn in and passed among artists, and I think they've kind of declined in popularity, but they're still out there and they're still...
It depends, because it depends on the way that they're done, but like some people like to trade books with their friends. They don't even commission. They
Some
just
examples of sketchbooks right down there.
Some right down here. And they're selling them in the dealer's room. But the thing is, like the book that I have in here, which I'm going to be dropping off at the dealer's room shortly after this panel, I've been working on for 15 years. It's very valuable to me. It's got a story behind it, and I would hate to lose it. So if you have a sketchbook, please put your name in the sketchbook, not just your fan name, but a real first name, and some piece of contact information, either an email address, a telephone number, a Twitter handle, some way that the convention can get back to you, because if you value that item and it's lost and it's custom, we want you to get it back. We want everybody to get everything back, but something that has a lot of personal meaning to you, we really don't want you to lose. So please, put your name in your sketchbook and some form of contact information so we can get it back to you if it ever separates from you.
Well, that's a perfect other point to consider as well around the lost and found, which I didn't have on my list, but that's perfect. The sort of the idea or the convention, and I'm using that word twice here, that we've used in the past is if you find something on the ground, bring it to ConOps. ConOps is in the Reagan room, which is in the conference center. If you've lost something and you're trying to find it, bring it, or you can typically look inside ConOps as well. And so that's typically where a lot of things end up migrating to, so don't fret if you've lost your badge. Actually, I lost my staff badge last year and it ended up in ConOps instead of...
And people make fun of us when we lose our staff badges.
They do. No, it is a social media internal nightmare for many of us. But yes, so ConOps, if you lose stuff, people, I have found generally pretty darn honest at conventions like this. I don't know if it's just because of our nature or the fact that we all realize that I could potentially lose something as well, but we get wallets turned in with money in them.
Someone turned in my tablet.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone turned in my tablet, and I was afraid it was lost. And they were like, no, somebody saw it on a chair. They didn't want it to get stolen, so they turned it into ConOps.
Yeah. So again, if you lose something, it might be ConOps potentially. If you find something randomly, bring it to a security person or bring it into ConOps.
One other unique thing. Do you have something you want to segue to? I was going to talk about fursuits.
Nope, that works actually. That's on my list. So you go ahead.
So fursuits are kind of the most visible, probably, part of the convention scene. You see people walking around in these big fuzzy costumes, and if these folks right here wave to everybody and say hi. I see Kirk in the back. Come on up, Kirk. Sit up front. We'll probably pick on you too. Fursuits are unique among us, but they're also they come with some restrictions. And it's not something the convention does, they're the restrictions of the costumes. How many people at some point in this room would like to own a fursuit that don't own one right now? Lots of people.
Just a hand raise, what was that for?
How many people would like to own a fursuit at some point in the future? Yeah. It's like lots of hands go up.
I saw that, cool.
How many people know how hot these costumes get? Can anybody guess what the internal temperature of a head can be on an average day? I'm from Orlando, Florida. So I'm used to going out in 90-degree weather and 90% humidity.
600 degrees.
Celsius. No,
not really.
No, but what do you think the average temperature of a head gets after wearing it for about 30 minutes?
45. Actually, that's pretty close.
That was really close. Yeah. Between 115 and 120 degrees.
Yeah.
Wow.
The human body radiates 75% of its heat through the top of your head. That's why you put on hats when you go out in the winter. It helps you keep heat in. You also layer. Well, we tend to be putting on layers. We put on Under Armour or a t-shirt, and then we put the suit on, and then we put shirts and all kinds of other things on them, so we're trapping heat. We have special rules for fursuiters, especially around elevators, because of the danger that they can have of suffering from heat stroke. Yeah, why don't you, with the little blue tuft on and the blue ear tips, why don't you stand up real quick, because you were making the motion, so just stand up and face the audience. If you see a fursuiter doing this is a warning sign. This is not somebody trying to be cute. This is, I need to either get to the headless lounge, or I need to get to my room right away. If they start doing this, do not impede them, do not stop them. If they're trying to get to an elevator, get them to the front of the elevator line in front of the fursuit line. We specifically have a fursuit line because of the potential for heat stroke, which unfortunately has happened at several conventions.
Yeah, and that is something I think to just remind, especially folks if you haven't been to a convention before, if you are wearing a costume, you can cut to the front of the line effectively. The elevator wranglers, as we're calling them, I guess. They're aware of that rule. You'll hear some people, where maybe it's their first convention and they're not in costume, start to grumble and say, wait, why are you cutting in the line? And it's for exactly what KP was saying, is there's potential safety concerns that we want to make sure. So it's not because fursuits are expensive and you're a better person because you have a fursuit, it's for safety.
Right. Now, there is something about fursuits. I'm going to ask Cody, we're going to jump down in front and pick on one of these folks really quickly.
Yep.
So we're not going to have a mic. Let's pick on
Did you want a mic, or you should have a mic?
Let's pick on the dragon.
They're portable.
All right,
Let's pick on the dragon. Why don't you stand up? Because you're right in front. What we're going to do, and this is kind of a common exercise, you're going to face the audience. Cody, you're going to hold up one finger like this, and I'm going to hold up one. We are going to come from the size of the head, and when this is sugar high, this is Kalani? Okay. When Kalani is physically able to see our fingers, Kalani is going to raise both the left and the right hand. Okay? Go a little slowly, but start moving towards it. Can you see this one already? Okay. This might not have been the best suit to do that. Okay. This is their field of vision. Let's bring another suitor up here, though. Let's bring you up.
Who's more blind?
Yeah, who's more blind? Let's bring this suitor up here.
Wendigo.
Yeah,
Wendigo.
Come on up.
Okay, perfect.
Because it depends on how the eyes are constructed. We're gonna do the same thing. And tell us when you can see left and right, our fingers move into your field of vision. Okay, there you go. Anything outside of where our fingers are, this person cannot see. So, including down below, but also to the side. If you see somebody that you really like and you're wanting to give them a hug, and you start coming out over here, this person cannot see what I'm doing right now. It has no idea. Now keep looking forward. Keep looking forward. You're gonna have to trust me on this one. So if I start doing this person has no idea what's about to happen. I have seen people at various conventions lunge to give them a hug and dislocate knees, fracture ribs, shoulders, and one broken ankle. That completely ruined that person's convention experience. You don't want to do that because they had a brand new fursuit, they were really happy, and someone decided to pounce tackle them, broke their ankle, dislocated a knee. Always approach fursuiters from the front or from where they can see you. Just because these eyes are looking at you doesn't mean that they're real eyes.
And the other consideration, because believe it or not, I sometimes run around in one of these as well. If a fursuiter bumps into you, don't take it personally. Again, a lot of people when you're new, especially if this is your first FurryCon, it's the, you get bumped in a crowd and, oh, that's uncomfortable. Why did you do it? It's not on purpose, they just can't see. The vision is so limited, don't take it personally.
And also sweat can get in their eyes.
Very true as well.
The other thing, actually pick on this suitor. Thank you very much, by the way, for coming on up. If you can come on up, because you have a full suit. A lot of the folks down here have what we call partials, which means that they have just hand paws, feet paws, head, and maybe some other accoutrements. But someone like Kirk in the back, or this person, this is Isaac. That's your character name? Okay, Isaac, stand right up here, right in the middle between me and Cody. We're gonna get all chummy. This person has a full bodysuit.
Oh, my suit jacket.
Oh no. How many people can guess what the average cost of one of these can be? I'm hearing 2,000.
25.
25, $1, and you over here. How much? 5,000. For general costumes, meaning nothing that's too too crazy, average fursuit builders right now are charging anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000 for a costume of this kind of design. Can anybody guess what the most expensive costume that I personally am aware of right now in the furry fandom is? I heard of 30,000. That's a little on the high side. Yeah, Cryo has it. Who knows?
21.
$12,000. There is a costume that's $12,000 out there. I'm going to ask Isaac to turn around for just a second, because one of the things that used to be really popular, we kind of got people to stop, is pulling on tails or grabbing ears. For a lot of characters, some of these are wearing belts that has a tail hole that it loops through, so it gives it a little more wag. For some suits, though, they're sewn on. If you pull a tail hard that's sewn on, not only will it pull the tail off, it can rip the fabric. And that's a very expensive repair, and it's time consuming.
And the other thing is, I don't want to make it sound like you can only purchase these things. Many of us, I actually, there's a lot of panels, and we go out of our way with sessions this weekend. If you're interested in making these yourself, they're actually not that hard to make. Now, your first few may be not the best works of art ever.
It takes practice.
It does take practice, but it's not that hard to do. And there are lots of people who sell them and do spectacular works of art. But I really do, and we all really do encourage everybody, you can make them yourself. You don't have to spend $3,000 on them. You can make them for as cheap as a few $100s in materials and then lots of time.
I made my first one and it was called Frankenpup.
I remember Frankenpup,
Because
yes.
he had a really big head and I didn't make the seam just right. He had this big swath of fur that just didn't quite match.
So did anybody make your suit yourself?
My
Yes.
best friend made it.
Awesome.
He made it all by hand.
Wow, that is very cool. I love to see that. I love to see it. Between Anthrocon and MFF and a lot of the cons where you get thousands of people at them, the variety of the characters is just amazing to see because you get so many different art styles, so many different interpretations, and it's cool. Anyway, I'm gushing. Here you go.
The other thing I was going to mention, and this is dealing with fursuit care. If I were to give Isaac a hug, say, "Oh, Isaac, your suit is so cute. I really love your suit. Oh, and it's so soft. Oh, I want to scritch it." Scritching is bad. What scritching does, whether it's on the chest, even on the shoulder, the head, it actually starts matting the fur. And when it brushes out, it pulls some of the fur out. And that fur is not real fur. It never grows back. So over time, you're going to start getting bald spots or places where the fur is thinner or a different color because the light is not hitting it right. It's okay to pet, but always pet a fursuit in the direction that the fur is laying. You can pet it. It's usually going down, like from the shoulder. If they're okay with it. Obviously, if they don't want you touching it, then don't touch them. That's bad touch. But if you're petting a fursuit, don't use your fingernails. For God's sake, if you've been eating Cheetos, don't touch a white suit.
Or any suit.
Or any suit. Don't. If you're a lady and you have the most lovely shade of lipstick that you've ever seen, please don't go kissing them on the schnoz. There are all kinds of things that happen to suits. Oh, and strawberry soda is not really the best thing you want to have in your hand when you're hugging a fursuiter.
More coffee.
Coffee's bad. Strawberry soda is pretty darn bad.
Silly string.
Yeah, gross. Okay. So, thank you very much. Isaac, I appreciate the help. Okay, we're gonna move on to something else, but, so thank you. Woody, did you want to talk about the volunteering stuff?
I do actually.
And then we'll have to get some questions from you guys.
So I know that we touched upon this at opening ceremonies, and I think almost everyone here, was anyone here not at opening ceremonies? Or did we all, okay, we actually do have a number of people that stayed from.
You missed an amazing show. We gave away cars, and we did not. I'm kidding.
None of that actually. With that in mind, we should mention a couple other items like
Yep.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I wanted to touch upon volunteers because you may or may not realize this, but everyone here is a volunteer. Everyone who's helping to run the event this weekend is here of their own free volition, supposedly.
I flew in from Seattle on purpose.
Yeah, intentionally.
I don't know why.
And for whatever reason, we actually enjoy this. We enjoy coming together and making this event happen. And it takes a lot of people to do that. Like, there are so many people running around just right now in this room as you look around making this specific panel happen. And there are probably a dozen different panels going on across the convention right now, and there's the dealer's den and the artist alley. Yeah. So there are a lot of volunteers right now who are working in order to make this event happen. We rely on these volunteers for a lot of these skilled tasks, but then we also have volunteers that we refer to as gophers who are doing things that maybe didn't require the same weeks of buildup that we've put in or years of buildup that we've put in. And we need those people just as much. We need volunteers to act as checking badges at doors and doing other tasks, which we just need people who are capable and competent and find that I've got 2 hours to spare and I'm not doing anything. Maybe I could help out at the convention a bit right now. If you find yourself with some free time and you want to lend a hand, then please stop by our volunteer desk, which is outside of Ronald Reagan in the conference center, which is the domed room off of the lobby. And our volunteer desk there would be happy to put you to work. So.
Yes.
You can also, and actually come back, and I just realized, to this same room at 2 o'clock, talk more about how to volunteer to help MFF,
Yes.
maybe in that or a much greater capacity.
So the other thing I guess that you wanted to mention, SCED. So because we said this during the opening ceremonies, and we just get a lot of feedback from folks. They get the paper printout of the schedule, and they start to wonder, wait a minute, it says something's at 3 o'clock, and there's nobody here. There's a lot of things that change between the time it takes to print all those convention books and when the convention actually happens. People missed a flight, they couldn't get here, so forth. Sked.furfest.org or come by ConOps or the info desk will have the absolute latest up-to-date schedule. So if you see a discrepancy between something on paper versus something in the mobile app, The mobile app is always the one that is going to be correct because that's the one we can update the fastest. That's the one that actually has the most changes available. Also, the plug we had from the opening ceremonies, please, if you want to use Sked, give us feedback on how you feel the sessions went. It's really cool when you get into Sked, it's like the easiest piece of software to use. It's a very simple application. You can actually select by clicking on certain things you'd like to attend and build a personalized schedule. It will email you when changes happen to those items. It'll email you when things are about to start, but it'll also email you afterwards now and solicit your feedback so that we can help make the event a little bit better.
Cool.
All right. Is there anything else you want to go?
Yeah, there's just one other thing, and it kind of piggybacks on a panel we'll be hosting later, but it deals with media and reporters. So Midwest Furfest has a very specific media policy. If you are walking around and a person comes up to you and just like with a notebook just starts asking you a few questions and says, hey, I'm with X paper and I'm writing a story on Midwest Furfest, they should have some kind of indicia, like I believe it's a yellow lanyard.
Yeah, they have a press badge that they
have something that
by us.
Yeah, that indicates that they're authorized to do that. If you do not see that and you become uncomfortable with that, ask them to go to a security person or tell them, hey, let me get a staffer who can answer that for you. The reason is in the past there have been unscrupulous individuals who try to sneak in and they're trying to create stories. They're not trying to report on something, they want to create something that benefits them, not you. Midwest Furfest does this because they value your privacy and they value your security. People who should not be here and are doing things they should not be doing need to be addressed by security. So if someone starts asking you questions, instead of saying, hey, I think I can handle this, just say, hey, let me get someone from the staff who can help you. If they are legit, they will want to talk with that right staffer. If they're not, they're going to try to skedaddle real fast. But don't feel embarrassed by saying, hey, or don't feel like I have to answer this question because a reporter is there. They may or may not really be a reporter, and there are any number of reasons why, which we won't go into, why you don't want to talk to those people. You want to let someone that is and I think there's only a couple of people at Midwest Furfest that are authorized to talk to the media. I think these two guys are, and there may be one other person. But
Am I authorized, Cody?
You're not. No, you're not
I
authorized.
didn't think so.
but yeah,
that's sort of my day job.
yeah. I mean, most staff is not authorized to talk to media.
Right.
There are specific people that's their job, and you want to make sure, like I said, for your security, you don't want something happening and your name popping up in a place where it shouldn't, or your photo popping up in a place where it shouldn't. You don't want that. That's why we're here to help protect you.
And I mean, to be fair, you are going to see media at the event this weekend. So there are some publications that we've granted, we call them press passes, to be here. As KP from the Anthrocon perspective, because you do a lot of this over there as well, can attest, we do a very, very thorough vetting process of anybody who reaches out to try and get information. Not because of any negative or nefarious reasons, but having press on site has an impact on staff, it has an impact on the attendee. Whether the story is right or wrong, that's not even really the big issue. It's that there's thousands of people here, and the minute a TV camera shows up, instantly there's crowds, there's safety issues, there's challenges walking around. And so that's a lot of the reason behind why this policy is there. And so some of the agents that you are going to see, there should not be any video media, fortunately, here this weekend. There'll be some print media. It's just to make sure that everybody's able to still enjoy your weekend. We're able to get the greater community the understanding of the event that they need to see at the same time. But also, again, primarily it's for safety.
And I guess the last thing I would add is, if you decide you want to volunteer, that's also a great way. If this is your first furry convention, it's a great way to make new friends.
Good call.
Take a look at the program. A lot of people say, well, why would you offer so many panels? Why do you want to have all that? It's a great way to meet people that have similar interests as you. And if you're a little daunted by the fact that you're at a convention with thousands of people, you may not know a whole lot of people, those panels are a gateway to you starting to create new social circles. So don't be afraid to stop into a panel, that may be like a canine, a husky meet and greet, or a tiger photo shoot or something. You might meet a couple of people that you think are really cool and end up going to dinner, in the restaurant, hanging out with, and make a new friend for a long time. And by the same token, you may find out that Midwest Furfest is a place you really want to be for a long time. You can start meeting the staffers and start looking to say, hey, maybe I want to join this organization. Maybe I want to be a part of it.
We will take your help. But that is a fantastic point because again, I forgot this even when I was millions of years ago as a dinosaur age for going to my first con. When you see stuff on the schedule that interests you, if you've paid and you have a badge, you can attend. You don't have to, with the exception of some of the larger events, there really isn't a sign-up process. Larger events being like the dance competition, and primarily because there's a very large judging process that goes into that. But anything else on the schedule, if you see a dance you'd like to attend?
But you can still attend to watch. You
Oh, of
just
course,
can't-
absolutely, absolutely. But you don't think, oh, I saw that on the schedule, I don't know who's running it, I shouldn't. You can absolutely attend those things. They're here for you, this event is for you. There's hundreds of sessions on any type of topic you can imagine.
Yeah, everything you can
Feel free to attend any of those.
And I think one of my favorite parts about that, because that is an excellent point, is a lot of the people that we have running panels this year are people who started off in the exact same position where you are, and some of these people are, it has been an amazing process to see their transition from where they were just a few short years ago to where they are today, where they showed up at their first convention and they were very nervous and shy and they weren't comfortable speaking out, and they showed up to a few panels and they found that there were people who shared their interests. And maybe the first couple panels they didn't talk to people, but they listened, and maybe they got some names down and then reached out to them on social media later, and maybe there was a panel later in the event after they built up some confidence and they started talking to people, and the next year they return and they're a bit more vocal that year, and the year after that they're looking at, you know, helping with that panel, and the year after that they're running the panel. So it is an amazing thing to see. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there this weekend, because so many people are in the exact same position that you're in. They're just as nervous and sometimes a bit awkward. You know, we're all a bit awkward and nervous at times, obviously. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I know that's a hard thing to do, but it's worth it.
Actually, that is you are hitting it exactly why I even do any of this stuff. So part of the reason I volunteered, I'll be very brief with this, I know I don't want to keep droning on, but I think there's an awful lot of, apart from having a fun weekend and for giving a lot of great things to charities that are very deserving and seeing some amazing impacts on the community, I think one of the coolest things these conventions do, and this is sort of how I got started in this whole thing and why I continue to do this, it's so small that you see it almost barely over the years begin to impact certain people in the organization. And this is where Woody was going. That first convention where the person's a little bit shy and they've always been this nerdy kid, and then all of a sudden people begin to listen to them, and all of a sudden they can go back to work after the convention. They have a little bit more confidence because they've done something where their peers sort of appreciated them. And it grows over time, and those types of experiences, I think it's amazing. I'm almost going to cry here because it's hurting me. You're a jerk for that. The number of staffers who I've seen over the last decade go from people who were really nerdy people, we're all introverts to some degree, who have now gone on to amazing things, and you're watching them become more confident. You're watching them try new things because they were sitting in some model train panel at a convention, happened to know some piece of software that their boss just happened to ask them to go and take a look at or play around with, has catapulted and moved their career forward. And now you're starting to see these tech companies out west and in places like Chicago where furries and other people help other people. And I think there's so much really good stuff that happens at these conventions, apart from just a chance to hang out and have fun. I think that's a lot of the motivation you're going to see behind the people who are here volunteering on staff this weekend. Is we legitimately believe that the world is a crazy, crazy place, but it starts small with one person to make this place a whole lot better, and we're doing our part. So I won't go too much more in that because it's going to be much harder to talk.
I'm just going to say
Thank you.
Thank you. So, I'm going to get Woody back to that later.
Cool.
Are there any questions?
That's what I was going to do, actually. Well, we've got some time left. Do you have any questions for us on anything? Yes.
Here, I'll run the mics here.
Okay.
Sweet.
All right.
So I think we should probably just note, we'll do 2 sessions for questions. One if you're
Yep.
comfortable talking to everyone, then we'll kind of walk around with mics, and then we'll do a second one if you just want to talk to us afterwards. If you're not comfortable talking in front of the entire group, feel free. And if you're done listening to us and want to head off, that's fine too. Cool.
Yes.
All right, so if we're in the main areas, there's lots of people. Where do we find someone who may be a volunteer or someone to ask questions or help with directions? What will it look like?
Anyone who's got one of these staff lanyards is a member of Midwest Furfest staff, or one of these hard badges, or anyone who's wearing one of the MFF vests, which you'll see around, which I think currently don't have an MFF logo on them, but they should have an MFF logo on them.
But they're baby blue.
Well, they're baby blue, they're dark blue. There's like 4 different color codes to them. So,
Go for ribbons.
or they're also the Gopher ribbons, which will have it'll just say one of these ribbons here will say Gopher underneath it.
But
Or
if-
it could be one that says staff
Yeah, I
underneath
think
it.
if you're ever not sure, you can just ask someone that you think looks like a staff, hey, are you a staffer? And most people will actually say no, but you can find that person over there because they are.
The lanyard's the easy one because it stands out. That's a good question, though, actually.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from anybody about anything?
I see someone
Yes.
in the middle there.
Here, I'm going to go to the middle and I'll come right back. I'm running.
Thank you,
Run,
Oprah.
Cody, run!
I apologize, I came in late. Where do we find the app thingy?
The app.
Sked.Furfest.
Sked.furfest.org.
Yeah, so it's a mobile website.
Or there's a QR code on the back of your staff
That's
badge.
true. It's on the back of your registration badge as well.
Yeah, it's right in the back.
That way you never lose it unless you lose your badge.
Question. There we go. Yep.
So stuff like the Dealer's Den and the Artist Alley, open kind of all day, probably one of the more popular things. Are there times when we should be aware, like going to be really crowded, or better times to go for more people set up?
So I think right when they start is when they're generally the most crowded, and then it sort of tapers off throughout the day. So
And then for art shows, probably like right when it's getting ready to close, it also gets a little bit
Right.
a little bit hectic.
with the art show, there's a bidding process involved on art pieces. So there are some people who kind of wait till the end to put in those last minute bids to see where it goes.
Any other questions?
Cool.
Everybody's an expert now.
Wait,
Yeah.
what's there a question over there? I saw a hand over there. No. Nothing.
No.
Okay. Again, if you have any questions after the event, look for somebody with a lanyard. Typically, if you see somebody with an earpiece and a radio, that's probably also a good indication that they're staff. Or there's info desks down here or by the Fursuit Lounge, and then you get upstairs by ConOps, which is in the giant glass domed-in area. It used to have a swimming pool in it, so it's much fancier than a normal convention center because it used to have a pool.
We should probably get that photo up on Twitter of the pool for the high.
We should just prove to everybody it's Super Cereal used to have a pool in it.
It was amazing. It's very 1970s.
Yes.
And I was also just going to pimp up. Cody and I are going to be doing a panel on
Yes.
working with the media at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I believe it's in the Sky Harbor.
Yep, Sky Harbor, which is in the bottom floor of that domed pool-like area without a pool in it
We
anymore.
would have been where the 10-foot section of the pool was, so we could be drowned really easily.
We'll be on the diving board area.
But yeah, there's going to be some cool stories and some really good information that you can take back to your communities, other conventions, and kind of just general like info. It'll be really cool to have that. Yes, there's a person.
One silly question. What's the best hashtag and/or @ symbol to use on social media to connect with everybody?
So hashtag Furfest is the official there's a Midwest Furfest Telegram group too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, they're not official, but there are several Midwest Furfest
Yeah.
Telegram
And
chats.
the @ or the actual Twitter tag is @Midwest Furfest.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great convention, and any questions, please reach out to us. Thanks.